Hey everyone, back at Rusty Bob's here down in New Zealand. We're in Papamoa, which is Tauranga, and I've got a few little odds and ends to do on the work ute here. It's a 2002, what we call here a Mazda Bounty. So it's like basically it's exactly a Ford Ranger with the Mazda badge. I know Ford and Mazda have done that for years. They still are. They all get made out in South Africa. Even the new Ford Rangers that are coming out in North America, I believe those are actually made in South Africa as well, out of the same plant. Great little truck, great little ute they call it here. This is a four-door diesel 2.5 with a turbo. I'll just flick the camera around, do a quick walk around, and then tell you what we're doing. So this is what we're doing. You can see I've got the fuel filler door open. I've got a coffee here, which is important. So this little ute, 2002, 2.5 turbo diesel. We picked this up about a year and a couple months ago, like $3,500 or $3,400. Great deal. The guy who we got it from was a mechanic. This vehicle had a blown head gasket, cracked head, and so he had done the work on it, and the guy never paid, so he kept the ute, sold it to us, just needed to get his money back out. So it's got a brand new head. He didn't bother reconditioning it. Four-door, air conditioning, put a CD player in it, because people use CDs, I guess. These little motors are really good if you don't do anything to them. So you just leave them bone stock, they'll last forever. It's when you have your teenage kid running the ute, probably smoking weed, because we did find some evidence in the ashtray. Wasn't paying attention, probably driving it in like third gear on the highway, overheated it, cracked the head. So we put a brand new head on it. A new head for this thing's like $300. It's cheaper than fixing an old head. And runs great. I've got a leaky turbo, so one of the seals has gone in the turbo. Again, there's so many of these motors out there, it's cheaper just to buy a brand new turbo than to pay to fix the old one. So I've got a new turbo to go on, and since we've owned it, haven't had a fuel filler or a fuel gauge working in the dash. So the needle's all the way down. And so how I understand it, when the needle's all the way down, that means your sender unit is actually not working. When the needle's stuck all the way up, it's normally, well, either your sender is stuck up for whatever reason, or your gauge is actually faulty. So putting a new sender unit in, super cheap. I mean, it's $45 at the wrecker. Looked it over. I mean, what happens on them is the little float thing usually goes on the end, right? And it fills up with fuel, and then it doesn't go up and down anymore. So dropping the fuel tank, it's got two bolts front and back. It doesn't have a strap like a lot of American stuff does. So it's got two bolts in the front of the tank, two in the back. And then you pull out the fender liner here, and back in here, you got your fuel line goes up. So I'm gonna pop that hose off there, and then it should drop down enough. There's enough slack on all the hoses and wires to drop it down, and then back up, put her back together. Should be good. Hey, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I guess the way that Google likes to do things is the more subscribers you have, the more often the videos pop up for people in their searches. And definitely like the video, comment if you have a comment. If you have a negative comment, that's fine too. I'm not precious, like water off a duck. Hey, we're having fun today. It's nice and sunny. It's wet on the ground, so I'm getting wet, but that's all right. So I got it out. Had some struggle with a couple of those hoses. The hose for the air breather is like welded on here. So I just popped, there was one more screw holding this in, and then there's 4 screws holding the flange there. So I just pushed this through. There's enough space above the frame there just to roll this out of there. And then these are just These are just regular, it's low pressure system, so these are just regular clamps like that. Pop those off, one cable here, and then that cable is a breather that was coming down from the frame as well. And then these are all nice and corroded up here, but I am, because they're all lubricated with fuel constantly, you know, dribbling down the filler and whatnot, they're actually coming out all right. And I'm gonna blow this off so that we don't get all that crap into the tank, and then back it goes. So this is the one I got from the wrecker. It's a used one. There's nothing to them really. It's got the floater dealio here, and it's got the I guess you'd call that a rheostat. It's like a ground rheostat. And then the old plug-in right there, and it even came with the gasket, and it looks in pretty good shape. So I'll bring your peepers down onto this guy here, and I tell you what, they have so much goo on this thing, and to be honest, I'm gonna do exactly the same thing. So sometimes when you pull something like this out, you immediately understand what the issue is. Let's see if you can guess. If you can guess, throw that down in the comments. I have a feeling that that wire is not very buoyant. So somewhere in that tank is a little floater in there. Anyways, garbage. I'll clean this up. I'm gonna keep all that crap out of the tank, and we'll get the new one. We'll put some lube on there like they did. Anyhow, it's always good, you know, these, especially because you're dealing with like a used product here. This gasket might be, it's actually pretty good. It feels pretty good, but I'm still gonna goo it both sides, stick this back in there, off to the races. So I got the tank back in. Man, I tell you, working on the ground and putting fuel tank in with like a half a tank of fuel in it is not an easy job. I do recommend to put in an empty fuel tank because you can easily wrestle it in there, but everything's working. Show you the gauge there is, it's off right now. Turn it on. Half tank. I'm gonna go fill up, see if it goes to full.